I just want to, throw my hands up. No offense, Riley, to the basketball guys on this one. I love offense. I love teams that put the orange thing in the 10-foot thing. And whoever's looking down on me, Bill Walton, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it up to you on this one. Thank you for giving me this great offensive matchup between BYU and Wisconsin, two teams that can really fill it up. They're efficient from 2-point range, they're efficient from 3-point range. Wisconsin's a little less efficient, but they're I think they're a little more streaky when it comes to 3-pointers, whereas
Yeah.
BYU is just a team currently that is just snipers from 3-point range and honestly very efficient from everywhere on the floor. Yet BYU, who I think we could constitute as one of the hotter teams in the country, outside of that Big 12 championship game, they've had a great string of games towards the end of the season and the regular season for the Big 12. They win their first round matchup with VCU, which a lot of people thought would be a really tough matchup, and they handled that pretty swiftly. And then Wisconsin, on the other hand, was able to take care of Montana and Money Williams and crew. And now you have a really good matchup between some really good players. Whether you have Blackwell, Tanji, and then the other side you have Yegor, Richie Saunders, and honestly, all up and down these two rosters, I think you have really good guys. So I'll throw it to you first, Riley, for your first thoughts on this game before we really dive into the cheese and the curds of this game. So I guess that's how we describe Wisconsin.
Oh man, thanks for teeing that up. I'm with you, man. Like the percentages tell the story here, where it's like the efficiency of both offenses. BYU is 31st in the country in 3-point percentage, fifth in the country in 2-point percentage. Like having that type of blend, it's no surprise they're 10th nationally in adjusted offensive efficiency. Wisconsin 13th, shooting the ball just a tick under 35%. With that being said, like I'm looking for a ton of made threes in this one. Even looking to like how hot BYU was shooting. I know they've cooled off a little bit against both VCU and Houston. Sorry, but you go back this past month. I mean, closing out the regular season, they were hitting double digits made threes and four of their final six games, eclipsing some of them. You saw them make 14 against Kansas, 14 against Arizona, 18 against Iowa State, and that incredible conference tourney game. Like, fireworks should be on full display in this one. Both teams have a lot of size as well. Like, the only thing I would add with BYU that I think could pose some interesting matchups, like most of Wisconsin size that resides in the front court. Like you have the Stephen Crowell, who's just a massive human out there. You have Nolan Winter, who can slide back and forth between the 4 and the 5. And I mean, Tanjay has good positional size on the wing, but when you look at this, BYU team is like 6'10" point guard. I know he's been up and down, but just seeing what kind of matchup issues he can cause, or Mawat Mag, who has good size, who can just guard whatever position pretty much. And even someone like my Serbian guy, Mikhail Bosovic, who I hope I said his name right.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it was, yeah.
oh, I've called him Mikhail. That's on me, BYU fans. Mikhailo Boskovic.
Respect.
Uh, Honestly, I just see MI with a Serbian name and assume it's Mikhail. I'm going to be real on that. But like that guy, I know he's been up and down throughout the year, but he's another just like one of those versatile weapons you can throw out there that I think it's just going to play out in a ton of interesting facets of this game to see like who matches up with who. Do both teams come out firing threes? Can both teams heat up? And like, at what point does defense actually factor into this one?
Right. And also, I got to send a shout out to Boscovich because, in the most endearing way, he's also the team psycho. Like, he's the one
Uh-huh.
who's ready for all the smoke. And look, there's a lot of intriguing matchups in this basketball game. Like, I think Jay Wright said it really well earlier. BYU is not a bad defensive team. They do just enough to kind of complement what they do offensively. And, as much as everybody wants to talk about the 3-pointers, they hit 7 threes against VCU. Like, they were not really that great from 3-point range compared to what they usually do. And they are still so good from inside the arc. Like you pointed out, how good they are from 2-point range and how physical they are on the boards. And one thing that I wrote down when I saw this matchup was going to happen earlier today that I do want to bring up is that there's been moments this year where you have Crowell and Winter, who I mean, Crowell is a legit 7-footer, and Nolan Winter's like 6'10", 6'11", damn near pushing 7 feet, right?
Hmm.
They have struggled against size, though, like true size that can match up with them. You look back to the both Michigan games this year. Now, obviously, those guys are, I think more skilled than when you get to the BYU bigs, but Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden size gave those guys problems. And on a game to game basis, K. Baketta is just a a physical specimen. I swear, I know he only plays like 20 minutes sometimes, but those 20 minutes he looks like Dwight Howard on the Magic.
Dude,
He's
Keita,
oh go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's my favorite glue guy in the country. That dude is.
So good.
The only reason why I didn't mention him when I was talking about the size is because dude's like 6'7". It doesn't matter because he's a unit and he grabs every rebound and he dunks everything. I
Literally.
absolutely adore that dude's game.
He's so good at protecting the rim. Then they bring in Foose off the bench, and Foose is just my heavy set king, finishes everything, gets a little bouncy if he needs to. They're just so good on the boards. They're so good from 2 point range. It's going to take a really good defensive effort from Wisconsin. And look, Wisconsin's very capable of it, right? Like they do have a good defense. It's borderline top 25. They they're just really solid though. Like they're not forcing turnovers. They're not blocking shots. They're just kind of very, very solid. But as I bring that up, that's the part that scares me, right? They are, they're 31st in the country as far as 2 point defense, but they don't block any shots. And right
Mhm.
now, this BYU offense is like well-oiled machine, like cuts, handoffs. Richie Saunders is driving. They are just doing all the right things, making all the right plays, right? And they don't really provide much that is resistance outside of actually being really good on-ball defenders. So, what do you think BYU is going to do offensively? Because right now, Coach Young has that team humming, and then on the flip side of this is going to be a really big test for BYU's defense, right? Because Wisconsin is a top 15 offense. BYU is 68th in defensive efficiency. Like Jay Rice said, they do enough. But
Mhm.
what do you think BYU has to do defensively in this game to kind of slow down Wisconsin's offense?
Yeah, first I want to talk about like yes, what they got to do on offense. Then we can switch to the defense a little bit. A
Mm,
couple things on BYU, like the key to this one, I do think is the foul line. Like I am expecting both teams to have hot shooting nights. I'm expecting both to be able to score around the basket effectively. But BYU on the season hasn't gotten to the free throw line a ton by the numbers at least, and Wisconsin conversely they don't foul much, or at least kind of a Big Ten staple to have these like fundamental white dudes who just don't
all up.
foul. But I'm even looking at Richie Saunders these last few games. You go back to that double overtime game against Iowa State that they won. He shot 13 free throws that game. All 13 of them came in regulation.
Yeah.
Shot 8 free throws again the second time he played Iowa State. And those might be the two outliers because, Iowa State's pretty aggressive physically. Maybe they call those games a little bit tighter than you'll see in this one. But I think with him, I really want to see him get downhill and get easy points at the charity stripe because he is such a good free throw shooter. And I think that just rounds out his game a little bit more. I want to see him like someone tells me he's not going 1 for 6 against Wisconsin. He's a key to that one. And one more note, Cart. I'll ask you this on this BYU offense. Guess how many dunks BYU attempted against VCU?
Ooh, it had to be up there. They were on that rim all game. I want to say, I'll say, it's not double digits, is it? Eight?
Actually, it's way lower than you expect. They only attempted one.
Really?
It didn't feel that way because of like the athleticism advantage. Part of me wonders is it's like they kind of went up on them and almost were just like closing it out the rest of the game. Very, very much like not show our hands too much.
Right.
I'm expecting there to be a couple Keba fireworks in this one. I'm looking for some more like thundering dunks, like easy buckets at the rim, working that pick and roll game with Yegor, and getting some easier looks at the rim in this one to where they show their full array.
Yeah, and you pointed out the free throw shooting thing, and I actually want to give credit to Coach Young because I feel like he's done a great job too of doing stuff to get Richie Saunders downhill, right? Like he does a great job of because Richie's so good. He's not like necessarily overly quick or like athletic, but when he comes off that handoff, it's like no wasted movement whatsoever, right? It's like two hard dribbles,
Mhm,
and you're like,
mhm.
oh, he's at the hoop. Like, how did he get there? You're looking at him like, oh, with all due respect, they're looking at him like, how did Richie Saunders just get to the hoop on us? But he gets there and he's tough around there. You try to knock
Mhm.
him off his spot, and you really can't. So I think that's going to be key in this one. And then also on the same token that you just spoke on, you got to do your best not to foul Wisconsin because Blackwell and Tanji are driving to the hole and they are looking for contact. They
Mhm.
want contact, they embrace it, they initiate it, and they want to get to the foul line. And they are the best free throw shooting team like in the country. I actually think they're like pushing historically for like the greatest free throw percentage of all time or something like that. Like this team does not miss free throws. So yeah, they literally are number one in the country, 82, almost 83% from the line. So you got to keep them off
Yeah.
the foul line. You cannot foul them. They have a they are a team that likes to get fouled, and once they get there, they make their free throws. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a high level game.
To your question about the defense, you mentioned Jay Wright says they can at least get in the way. Just looking at Torvik, at least over their past 10 games, they're 43rd nationally defensively. So
Yeah,
they have been playing better down the stretch. I'm most interested to see how they guard the post and handle because again, they have like great positional size, but they are a little undersized, and at least from a height perspective with Kita and Foose. Again, it usually doesn't bother them because of their width and their strength. But I wonder if like how Steven Crowell going to fare posting up Kebakita? Is he going to be able to just hit hook shots over him? Because even looking at BYU's recent games, they haven't really faced like how far back? I mean, you have to go back to Kansas. I guess you could look at like Kansas and Arizona, their last two regular season games where they really faced a more offensive minded big. Even looking throughout the Big 12 tournament, Juwan Roberts missed it. They were going against JoJo Tugler, Javier Francis, who are more so like I'm there to grab offensive boards and block shots. Don't really
right.
know anything else. Um, I mean, I'm not really going to gas up any bigs from Arizona State or West Virginia, which gets us back to Arizona and seeing like, how they fared against Henry Visar. And I mean, in that game, Visar had a solid 12 points, 23 minutes. It is like didn't kill you on that. I think he's one of the more offensively skilled bigs in the country. Maybe that bodes favorably that they can at least mitigate the damage what Crowell and what Winter can do as they throw those bodies at you in waves.
Yeah, I had no idea that Cape Cato is only like 6'8".
I'm pretty sure that's how tall he
Yeah,
is.
he is. No, I just
Okay,
looked it
cool.
up, but that dude's arms are ridiculous. He has a 7'5" wingspan and a 40-inch vert, which checks out because when I look at him, I'm like, damn, his arms are hanging down to his damn ankles. Like
Hmm.
that dude is just a freak athlete. He's everywhere. It's going to be a really intriguing matchup, and I honestly think that BYU's bigs can hold their own against these Wisconsin bigs. And I think that's going to be big in this game, no pun intended. So, obviously, a high level offensive matchup. I do want to push back because our King Jay Wright was like, don't expect for this game to be in the 90s because when you expect for games to be in the 90s, you're going to get a classic 72 to 74 game. And I was like, let's maybe manifest a little bit of offense in this game. But
Yeah, I feel you. I don't need that energy, Jay.
yeah, come on now. I know you're a Villanova coach, but now you're in the booth. All right, there's no need for that manifesting some slow, sloggy offensive game anymore. But let's go ahead and get to the prediction portion of this game. Ken Palm has this as basically a pick 'em, a 2-point Wisconsin favorite in this game. Which way you lean in this game, Riley?
I picked BYU in my bracket and I'm sticking with it. It's not a slight toward my Badgers. I have really, really enjoyed watching them play this year. And if you had told me that, I would say that about a Greg Gard team 2 or 3 years ago. What would I guess I mean, maybe I would have thought Greg Gard inexplicably got the UNC job, and I just enjoyed watching them because they were my team.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so it's not a slight on them. I think it should be close. I envision this being pushing the 90s, like sort of how those Iowa State games played out. I just think, oh man, I'm like, now I'm kind of talking myself out of it because in crunch time, I'm like, I want the ball in Blackwell or Tanji's hands and let those dudes get to the line. At the same time, I kind of just think like Richie Saunders is a killer and seeing Yegor have this breakout game after he's been quiet for most of the year. And even knowing you have someone like Kebakita who's going to make the clutch plays down the stretch. Like I keep circling back to that first Iowa State game. He grabbed every important rebound on both ends of the court. And oh, I think Wisconsin's a little bit susceptible on the glass. Am I making that? They clean it well on defense, but
You would think they would be better given that they play two damn near 7-footers at all times.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, for comparison, like BYU is elite on both the offensive and defensive glass. Wisconsin's a really good defensive rebounding team, but they don't really crash it on offense to where I think there's a chance that down the stretch, I trust Kebakita to end a possession to get the ball moving in transition or something. And whether it's Jaeger, whether it's Richie Saunders, I think those dudes can come up in the clutch just as well as Blackwell can. And I lean BYU as being like the more athletic and better team who's just been hotter down the stretch.
Yeah, I've been very much buying BYU. I had them to advance over Wisconsin in my bracket, so I'm going to stay strong on that one. I just think that there's going to be a few key things. Like I said, the free throws are going to be massive. I look for guys like Mawat Mag on BYU to get a good shot on John Tanji and to stay solid, make it tough on him, and for the guards on BYU to be tough. And I think being tough in this game is going to be really, really big. And that's a massive step that BYU has taken as a basketball team. I think even coming into that first tournament game, everyone was looking like, oh, well, VCU is tough on ball pressure. They're going to punk them. And they didn't. And Yegor had a really good game. And, other guys didn't have the best games. And now you're getting Yegor playing this.
Hmm.
Yegor's just treating this like it's another game. He doesn't even know that it's a one and done game. Probably he's just I show up play basketball, which is good for him to be playing that freely. So this BYU team is so talented. They're so physical. They're so tough. I just like what they can do in this game. I think I'm gonna take BYU. I think it'll be close. I'll say BYU. Let's get this in the 80s. Let's go BYU 85 and Wisconsin 81. So pretty close. Wisconsin will have a chance to win it. Tanji will go to the hole, not get a foul call, and they will end up losing by 4 points. But whatever happens, we will have the recap here on the channel. Should be a really good game. We have previews and recaps of every March Madness game on Sleepers Media YouTube channel. Be sure to, what do the YouTube people say every day? Tap in, like, subscribe, comment, all that. It is March, and that means that March Madness is upon us. And if you are looking for a place to play, Underdog Fantasy has you covered. Sign up and deposit using code SLEEPERS, that's code SLEEPERS, to receive up to $1,000 in bonus credit plus a free pick. Head over to Underdog Fantasy today and use promo code SLEEPERS to take advantage of this amazing offer.